Good vibes soul. If all earthlings united lived at peace with one another, honest, were forgiving with each other, then this world, my friends, will be full of good vibes. If everyone loved their neighbor the way they love themselves, there would be no chaos amongst us. My friend, we here are intended to making such a world, my friend, by spreading the message of love to the whole world, by going through videos from wonderful souls out there in different places of the world, my friend, with different perspectives. Others have even recorded mysterious stuff, my friend, that we shall be seeing together. And all this is for the sake of spreading love and good vibes. I am Y311H. You are a fearfully, wonderfully precious child of God. And on today's show, my friend, we shall be reacting to some good vibes video together. And through these videos, we shall be guided by our Maker, the Creator Almighty, who has kept you alive to see this video from wherever you are. And to acknowledge them, we shall be giving a word of thanks before we start. But my friend, first hear what this book is telling us. The book of wisdom is giving us some wisdom from Luke 9:57. As they were walking along the road, a man said to him, I will follow you wherever you go. Jesus replied, Foxes have holes, and birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. He said to another man, Follow me. But the man replied, Lord, first let me go and bury my father. Jesus said to him, Let the dead bury their own dead, but you go and proclaim the kingdom of God. Still another said, I will follow you, Lord, but first let me go and say goodbye to my family. Jesus replied, No one puts his hand to the plow and looks back is fit for service in the kingdom of God. Interesting. Good vibes, soul. We had read that verse another day, and today it's a different one in a new style. You see, let's give thanks to our Creator. Dear Lord Father, thank you for your love and peace. Thank you, dear Lord, for the videos we have today. Thank you for your child, Father, that you've directed to this channel. Dear Lord, as we react to the videos together with this fearfully, wonderfully made child of yours, may you bless them abundantly, Father. May you forgive them their sins from wherever they are, Father. May you uplift their souls, dear Lord. Give them peace and joy in their lives, Father. And also guide us till the end, and we shall be grateful. In your holy name, Jesus Christ, we do pray, trusting and believing. Amen. Let's dive in, good vibes.
The single most important thing that will determine your future is your sense of who you are. And that's not like some, spiritual, get connected with you. This is like fucking science, right? If you believe you are a loser, the empathic circuits of other people's brains will detect that in you and they will treat you like a loser. You carry who you are with you. That's why you get into failed relationship number 1, failed relationship number 2, failed relationship number 3, until you changed. And when you change, your sense of identity changes, then your future will change.
So you know all those videos where they show you a tape measure and they say, hey, did you know? Just turn the tape measure until you get to an even number, and then you can find the center. Like if you put it on 20, then the center's 10. Did you know that there's an even easier way than that? Like a idiot proof. You don't have to do math, nothing. It's called the self-centering tape measure. I'll show you. I need to find center on this drawer face so I can put our little guide on here and drill one single hole in the middle for the pull. So I take this little tape measure and I stretch it across here, and right there, 17.5 inches. But what's that number right underneath it? 8 3/4. The entire tape measure has in black what the actual measurement is, and then right below it in red is what half of that measurement is. You don't need a hack and you don't need math. You just need a self-centering tape measure. I mean, that easy. Or you could just take any tape measure and you know, try to turn it at an angle and make sure you got the lines lined up and all that stuff. I mean, sure, if you want to do it the hard way.
I've designed over 1,000 kitchens. Here's 3 things I'd never do. Number 1, never put your sink on the island. Sinks are the messiest part of the kitchen. Why would you want to create a beautiful kitchen and then spend your days staring at the washing up? Keep your island either completely clear or just have the hob on it. And put your sink on a wall run so you can keep your island clear of clutter and those nasty dirty dishes. Number 2, save money by having cupboards instead of drawers. This is such a false economy. Yes, cupboards are cheaper than drawers, but they're also much less efficient, so you end up needing more of them. With drawers, you can instantly see and access everything. With cupboards, stuff gets buried at the back, never to be seen again. Saving money on your kitchen is fine, but just do it in the right way. Don't compromise on the fundamentals of a good, hard-working kitchen. Number 3, have tiles for splashbacks. Tiles are just not a good choice for your splashbacks. They look too busy and the grout discolors over time. Nowadays there are much better options. From glass to stone to laminated panels, all of these are maintenance free and give your kitchen a beautiful, elegant look without all that horrible grout.
Best advice I ever had? Accountability feels like oppression to people that are abusive, and accountability feels like an opportunity to people that are healthy. Pay attention to how they react to accountability. It'll show you exactly how they feel about you.
They told us to eat low fat. They told us to eat seed oils. They told us to avoid the sun. They told us to avoid red meat. They told us to limit our eggs for cholesterol. They told us to limit salt. They told us to avoid butter. They told us everything to make us unhealthy, insulin resistant, forgetful, and dependent on their system. So what are you going to do about it?
So when did we actually figure out how to make steel, like embarrassingly recently, like 1700? The 1700s we figured out the blast furnace, right? And the thing is, steel doesn't work the same way that everything else works, right? So if you're back in like ancient Egypt, right, and you're a metallurgical engineer, I guess, you understand how metals work, how alloys work. You take something like copper. Copper's good for a bunch of shit. You can make things like arrowheads and weapons and things like that out of copper. If you take that copper and you melt it down, you add just a little bit of tin, bronze. Bronze! Oh my god, bronze. Bronze is fantastic. That's some good shit right there. You can make like a sword like that big with bronze. It's tougher and it's really easy to work harden. You can make, blades and stuff out of it. And like those blades do blunt relatively easily, but because they're work hardenable, you can just like take a regular hammer and just resharpen it and they'll take you like 5 minutes and you're all good. Like they don't name an age the Bronze Age unless bronze kicks ass. Like that's how things were done. You'd melt stuff down and you'd add a bunch of other shit and you'd see what it would do. You'd add some tin and you'd add a little bit of zinc and aluminium and stuff like that and it would change the physical properties of what you were doing and you'd figure out, how do we use this? Copper and zinc, that's brass. You've got pewter, which is tin and some other shit. You've got gold, you've got silver, you've got all of these different things that you can just throw in a pot and you can mix up and it's going to do something. So like you're a metallurgical engineer, that's how you understand metals to work. Steel doesn't. So steel, instead, to get steel, which is an alloy, but the only way that you know how to get steel, you don't know how to make it, you know how you can get it. When you refine steel, which is going to be refined the same way that you refine a bunch of different things, when you open up that bloomery furnace, the big chunk of metal that's left in there, about 1 to 2% or something like that, of that big chunk is going to be steel. It's going to be the good stuff. And that steel is just the right kind of malleable, the right kind of strong. Like, you can make some shit with steel, but I don't have a lot of it. When I say that I absolutely guarantee that for thousands of years there have been people dedicating their lives to trying to figure out the mysteries of steel, I am not exaggerating. I guarantee when they were using these furnaces, they were probably just throwing a bunch of different shit in there, hoping that it would increase the percentage of steel produced by just a little bit. I bet they chucked some people in those furnaces. Like, guarantee they did, though. Like, for thousands of years, this would have been like one of the bigger, more important mysteries. And now we make fucking everything out of the shit. The kinds of fantasy-ass plot lines of like trying to find a more efficient, a better kind of magical mineral to make weapons out of, and a magic sword. That's steel. You're describing steel. Like we just found it a while ago. And then we figured out how to like reliably make large amounts of it quite recently. People would have understood that steel was probably an alloy, but not how to get it. It didn't work like anything else did. But they knew it was valuable. They knew it was the good stuff. Like, for a long, long time, it would have been basically like this mythical thing that if you had an entire steel sword, man, you must have been a rich fucker.
Take a needle, poke it into the box. This is beginner telekinesis. This is not levitation. If you're not having any results, if you're not getting any results, Using paper, use some foil, just a square piece or rectangle piece, fold it, get a crease, fold it again, get a crease, so there's a peak. You put that on top of the needle, and then make sure that it can move. Okay, try pointing your fingers like this, and then try sandwiching it, and then try palming, and then hands-free. You're going to see a lot of edits because sometimes I sit here for 10 minutes and sometimes I sit here for 40 minutes, and you don't want to sit here watching no movement. I'm thinking spin, 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 move, move, move. I'm seeing the foil inside of a spinning ball of white light. But if you cannot see, that's okay. And I'm feeling energy coming out of my hands, condensing, compressing, moving the foil. And then when I'm hands-free, the energy is coming out of my heart center and my mind, out of my head, going towards the foil and making it move. Slowly, gradually, you move on to heavier objects, but you've got to be really patient with yourself. You can just use the energy from your eyes. Just set the intention, I'm going to use the energy from my eyes to move it. This practice really helps you with focus, concentration, intention, and it helps you to harness your energy. Your energy is your currency. And if you don't harness your energy and you're leaking energy all the time by being pulled off center and being distracted by all the distractions in the world, you're not going to have the energy to focus on what you really want to focus on. You're not going to have the energy to focus on your goals. Please be patient. Please keep practicing.
Okay guys, listen to this video, watch this video and see what this guy is saying. This is a new secret that we just discovered.
2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024. 5 years have gone by and you're still trying to change. But there's a solution to this that you've never thought of. You're dealing with something called analysis paralysis and action contrast. The reason you struggle with analysis paralysis is because knowledge is everywhere and you're trying to learn it all. And that works right into action contrast, which is doing something that I like to call learning the curriculum before enrollment. And this is the easiest way to understand that. If you were going to be a doctor, would you try to learn the entire curriculum before you enrolled in the school? The answer is obviously not. And this is because someone becomes a doctor by learning with action. That is how the human brain is designed to work. You could watch videos about being a surgeon for the next 60 years, but if you actually go try to perform surgery, you wouldn't know how to do it. But then the question is, why do people do this with their business and their life? It's because you are being constantly programmed to think that you need knowledge before you actually start. The best way to get out of this cycle is to reprogram your subconscious mind.
The secret to what makes love last, according to Dr. Sue Johnson, who I'm so grateful I had the pleasure to meet before she unfortunately passed away. The secret to a lifetime of love, according to her, is your emotional responsiveness together. Now, she described emotional responsiveness using 3 letters, A-R-E. Are you there for me? Which is a fundamental question we're all subconsciously asking in a relationship during both the big arguments and also the small everyday conversations together. A stands for accessible. Are you accessible to me? Are you available? If I turn to you, if I'm vulnerable and respectful and share a feeling or a need or desire, will you move towards me or turn away? Now, R stands for responsiveness. When I share something that's on my heart, can I trust that you will respond with empathy and a curiosity to understand what I'm going through, opposed to invalidation and getting defensive? Does my pain matter to you? Being responsive means being attentive, asking questions, showing them with our body language or touch or eye contact, I'm here for you. If this is important to you, it's important to me. Now, E stands for engaged. Do you have a desire to actually participate in this conversation? Because simply being physically present has nothing to do with being emotionally present, does it? We should want our partners to feel safe to share their inner world with us. That doesn't mean they have a license to accuse and yell and name call and criticize. But if we both truly want a lifetime of love, we have to ask the question, are we being accessible, responsive, and engaged with each other? Are we truly there for them when they need us? Not just in the conflicts, but the small everyday moments throughout the day.
If you have to evacuate your city, please do not make this mistake. When a disaster occurs and chaos erupts, most people make the same fatal mistake. Don't be one of them. Share and repost this because everyone might need it a little sooner than you think. If you live in a major city and it's time to bug out, your first instinct will be to take the fastest route. That's exactly what everyone else is going to be thinking too. Highways, main roads, and interstates will become parking lots. Miles of gridlock, desperate people, and no way to escape. The second you're stuck, you're vulnerable, and your chances of survival drop immediately. Instead, you need to think the opposite when planning evacuation. You need to be informed enough to leave before an evacuation order is given. And the best way out is the one no one else is taking. Back alleys and surface streets to stay hidden and navigate urban areas. Railroad tracks, footpaths, 4x4 trails, and even waterways to get out of the city. Avoid major roads, bridges, and tunnels at all costs. Plan multiple routes now because when it's time to move, hesitation could cost you everything.
You couldn't put two neurotic people together.
No, that's why lesbian relationships don't last. Because about 75% of divorces are initiated by women. And the simplest explanation for that is that on average, the most unhappy person in the relationship is going to be the woman. Well, why? Well, because on average, she has higher levels of negative emotion. That doesn't necessarily mean that negative emotion doesn't reflect problems in the relationship.
Yeah.
But she's going to be more sensitive to that. Well, so if you put two women together, well, what do you think happens? So, I mean, it's one of the reasons.
Here are the most important things you need to know about your tires that I teach my kids. Number one, if your steering wheel shakes when you get up to higher speeds, it usually means your front wheels are out of balance. However, if your kid in the car seat behind you is shaking, that usually means your back tires are out of balance. Number two, if you're driving down a straight road and you let go of your steering wheel for just a second, it should go straight. But if it drifts to one side, that usually means that you either need an alignment or you need to have your tires rotated. Tire balancing and rotation is usually free where you bought your tires, but alignment you do have to pay for. You should always do a visual check of your tires. The number one thing you're looking for is your tire tread. If you can put a quarter in the tread and see all of Washington's head, that means you need new tires. Maintaining proper air pressure in your tires is important. It'll help the wear of your tires and it'll give you a little better gas mileage. Let me show you how to test it. Look on the inside of your door for what the tire pressure should be for your rig. Just use a tire pressure gauge, check all four tires, make sure it matches those numbers on the inside of your door. If it doesn't, if it's low, just add a little air. The last best advice that I always tell my kids is don't cheap out when you buy your tires. Always ask for the good, better, best pricing just to keep them honest, but pick the best tires. They'll last longer and you'll have fewer problems, I guarantee it.
When you're asked in a job interview, why are you looking for a new job? There is only one answer to this question. There is only one thing to say, and I'm going to teach you what that is. I don't want you to panic, and I do not want you to tell them anything personal. Remember, a job interview is not a conversation with your friend, and it is not a date. The only answer to this question is, you are not going to say, oh, well, my current boss is crazy, or the company where I work is toxic, or there's so many problems and issues. No, you are not going to say that, because whenever you go negative and you talk negatively in a job interview, the hiring manager isn't thinking, oh, that poor person, let's save them. No, they think that you're the problem. They think that you're toxic. They think that you might be a potential cancer, and they don't want to invite that into their organization. They don't want to disrupt their awesome team by inviting you in. If anyone talks negatively in a job interview, it is a huge red flag. So the only answer to this question is, I'm looking for a new role because I'm looking for new opportunities. I've outgrown my current position. You can also reflect back on the job description. You can tell them all the things you know about their organization, and you can pay them a compliment. You can flatter them a little bit. That always goes a long way.
So Trump, the president of the United States, Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, got in a heated argument on live television. Now, the shocking part isn't that two presidents were arguing. The shocking part is about what they were arguing about. To put it simply, Russia trying to take over Ukraine, President Zelensky's country. So Ukraine goes over to the United States and says, yo, help us. But don't get it twisted. Zelensky is not asking for free help. The United States has not and never will give free help to anyone. More on that later. The United States, aka Donald Trump, says, sure, we can help you. But President Zelensky, I need hundreds of millions of dollars worth of raw materials from Ukraine. Then we'll help you. But that sounds really bad, so we got to add a little spin on it. He said, I want money from Ukraine because I want to make America great again. Y'all know I'm a businessman. I don't want to just give to Ukraine. Why don't they give to us for a change? President Zelensky's reply is, sure, you can have it. I want to save my country. Okay, sounds like everybody's on the same page. So why were they arguing? Well, because Zelensky had a problem. He just got tired of all the games and all the chatter. During this press conference, Zelensky's sitting there. Donald Trump is saying, look, like the TikToker just said, Zelensky finna give us some money. We finna go over to Russia and say, hey, stop messing with Ukraine. Boom, boom, bam. Zelensky said, wait, hold on. How are you going to make Russia stop? Donald Trump said, I just said it in front of the camera. We finna go over to Russia and say, stop. Zelensky said, and then what? Zelensky begins to explain how the leader of Russia, Vladimir Putin, absolutely does not care when people tell him to stop. Zelensky reminds everyone that he has had peace talks with Putin before. And each time Putin agrees, shakes his hand, but crosses his fingers and keeps taking over Ukraine. Essentially, Zelensky's saying, Trump, I need more than just your word that you can make Putin stop. I'm about to give you a lot of money. Trump is saying, well, you don't have many other options, do you, Zelensky? Better just take my word for it. And here's where things start to get wicked. See, most people think the United States is just a super kind protector of the world and just gives other countries money. It's time to grow up. The United States is what you call a superpower, and what superpowers are basically giant corporations with guns. Now, what Ukraine is asking is for the United States and the European Union to protect them from another superpower called Russia. Russia's saying, I wouldn't. The European Union, United States going, ooh, them folks sound serious. Donald Trump is saying, who's serious? Putin is my dog. Zelensky, give me some money and I'm going to tell my dog to stop. Putin the whole time in the background crashing out saying, I want Ukraine back, come on. Zelensky saying, you gonna tell him to stop? Donald Trump saying, yeah, just give me the money, I'm gonna tell him to stop. Now, this situation is way more complicated than that, and actually is very interesting because it might cause World War III, but I'm gonna save that story for another video. Now, tensions at this point getting a little high. Zelensky's saying, oh, these folks trying to scam me. J.D. Vance then opens his mouth. He said, man, Zelensky, watch your tone. All you need to do is sit over there and say, thank you, Donald, for saving my country. Zelensky said, who are you talking to? J.D. Vance said, you? Someone in the back said, yeah, and why ain't he wearing a suit? Everybody in the room starts laughing. Zelensky says, when my country is not in the war, then I might get a suit like yours. Everybody goes, ooh. No, they didn't. I'm getting a little carried away. But Donald Trump was like, look, for the last time when Trump say stop, they stop. Ain't that right, J.D.? J.D. said, hell yeah. Here's where things started to get wickeder. Zelensky said Russia came to Ukraine in 2014. Donald Trump, you was president in 2016. You ain't do nothing about it. Donald Trump did not like that. And when Donald Trump feels insulted, he starts to empty the clip. He tells Zelensky, look, Zelensky, let me just put it to you like this. If you don't sign this paper, then a bomb's finna drop in your head. He says, I'm going to talk to Putin and basically tell him, do what you want. Which ain't necessarily a lie, because Donald Trump seems to have a great relationship with Putin and a terrible relationship with Zelensky. Fun fact, Zelensky is part of the reason Donald Trump got impeached. When Zelensky became president of Ukraine in 2019, Donald Trump called him and said, congratulations. Also, can you find some dirt on my political rival, Joe Biden? Zelensky said, I do not want to get into American politics. I'm just trying to save Ukraine. Donald Trump said, well, how are you going to save Ukraine if I don't give you the weapons that were promised to you? So like I said, dig up some dirt on Joe Biden. The American government said, Donald, say, huh? They said, somebody snitched you out. We got the phone records of what you just asked Zelensky to do. do. Donald Trump said, oh, what y'all finna do then? The American government said, impeach you. And this kind of ruined their relationship. So even before this meeting, they were kind of going back and forth over the years. Donald Trump calling him a dictator. Zelensky saying Putin got you wrapped around his little finger, which explains why Trump was going extra hard on Zelensky. Zelensky, I should say, not going very hard back because he still needs America. In fact, everybody in the room felt like they could say whatever they wanted to Zelensky because they knew Zelensky couldn't really crash out. He still needs America. And take a look at super politician Marco Rubio over here, sitting here like, what is going on? Now, Zelensky's response to all these men, especially Trump, is a warning. He says, you guys don't know Putin like you think you do. Zelensky says Putin's not just going to stop at me. Basically saying, who knows how many countries Putin wants to take over. Basically alluding to World War II, where that guy with the mustache took over one country and then decided, screw it, I'm going to take them all. Donald Trump said, nah, United States, we finna be good. Worry about yourself. Now, the most remarkable part is, after the meeting, Zelensky still thanks Donald Trump and still says he needs America. Because again, he understands the way the world works. The European Union, world leaders from all over says, Zelensky, we want to help you, but you need the United States. So advice world leaders keep giving to Zelensky is just keep trying with Donald Trump. So, which is why you keep seeing Zelensky saying, man, shout out to Trump, thank you for giving me the meeting. It's essentially a man who knows what needs to be done and will stop at nothing to save his country. But this is also making world leaders from all over increasingly distance themselves from the United States because of Donald Trump's disrespect towards them. Because if all the world leaders choose to back Ukraine, the United States is supposed to be their ally, right? But if the United States backs Russia, not really allies. But Donald Trump's position is get down or lay down. I don't care. Essentially, before Donald Trump, America was the quiet bully that say, hey, give me your food or else. Seriously though. But now with Donald Trump, they're the loud bully that says, give me your food, your watch, and I don't care who sees me take it. Now.
Here are 4 foods that you should never refrigerate due to increased toxicity, mold formation, and adverse health effects. Now, these 4 foods might surprise you because we've all stored it and probably still continue to do so in the fridge. But according to Ayurveda, there are reasons behind it because they have adverse health consequences. Number 1 is garlic. Never buy peeled garlic. It should always be unpeeled, never store it in the fridge. Once it's exposed to those cold temperatures and moisture, it forms mold, which is highly linked to certain types of cancer. Number 2 are onions. So onions are actually a cold-resistant crop. So when it's exposed to low temperatures and moisture, the starches will convert to simple sugars, and then this will attract mold formation. So we've all done it. We've cut an onion and put the unused portion in the fridge. In fact, what happens is when you put it in the fridge, it absorbs all the bacteria and it forms mold. In Ayurveda, an ancient remedy is actually when someone is sick, we cut an onion and put it in a corner of the room so it can actually absorb and attract all those pathogens. Number 3 is ginger. This is not meant to be exposed to the cold or to moisture. Once you put ginger in the fridge, it forms mold, and this has been linked to liver and kidney failure. So always keep at room temperature. The 4th one, this probably is confusing because you've seen a lot of recent reports on why you should refrigerate this, but it's rice. Never refrigerate rice, and if you do, never more than 24 hours. This is one of the highest mold-forming foods. Now, there's a lot of talk about if you refrigerate right after you cook it, you can increase the resistant starch, and this is great for your cholesterol and blood sugar. That may be so, but it's not worth the risk of getting mold, and it can form a serious bacteria which causes food poisoning and even can lead to death. So those are the 4 foods that you should never refrigerate.
When I was little, I thought the parable of the wedding garment was messed up until I looked into it a little further. Let me explain. So Jesus says that, there's a wedding party and he invites everybody, good and bad, and everybody is invited to this party, just like we're all invited to heaven, right? And so the party has started, but there's this one person who isn't wearing a wedding garment. And the king, who represents God, calls him out and was like, hey, how did you get in here without a wedding garment? And then he kicks him out. He kicks him out of heaven after the party. And I always thought that was really messed up because I was like, well, I grew up poor and I was like, hey, what if you couldn't afford a wedding garment, right? So I looked into this, into like the context of the history of like what was going on back then and how kings would throw parties. So back then in Bible times, when a king would throw a party, your wedding garment like the clothes that you were to wear to the party would actually get mailed to you, or it would get dropped off by the king's servants ahead of time. And you would wear the king's wedding garments. You wouldn't wear your own wedding garment. Okay? You wouldn't bring like your best clothes or like, you know, your own like silk or fine fabrics or whatever. You would wear the royal wedding garments that the king would provide for you, because the king's wedding is a time to show the king's glory. It was to show how rich and powerful and majestic the king was. It was not a time for you to show off like how ballin' you were and to bring your fancy clothes to the wedding. You know what I mean? And so I had it twisted when I was a kid. I thought that, you know, the dude was too poor to wear like the proper attire, but in reality, most likely he was trying to show off his own wealth and his own, you know, majesty instead of wearing what the king had provided for him. So what this parable is actually saying is that the people who get thrown out of heaven, or the people who get thrown out of the God's wedding party, are those who try to wear their own righteousness and their own good works, right? You're trying to get into heaven saying, hey, look at all the stuff that I've done. Look at all the good I've done. Ha ha ha, look at me. Instead of wearing the robe, the wedding garment that God has given you, which is the righteousness of Christ, right? I hope that helps. When I learned that, it blew my mind. All right, bye-bye.